Welcome to It Starts With You, where we cut through the noise and get real about the behaviours that shape our lives, both personally and professionally. I'm Vic O'Farrell. Let's jump in because behaviours start with you. Welcome to another podcast of It Starts With You on the solo episode, just with me, Vic O'Farrell. So a shorter than normal episode, but I'm just going to dive in straight away. So I frequently get asked, yeah, but Vic, don't people, when they know personalities, isn't it just about, labeling people and putting people in boxes and just saying, well, that's you and that's me. And it's absolutely no way. It is not, and I will always stress this whenever I'm dealing, whether it's a workshop or I'm giving a keynote or anything like that, I will always stress to people, understanding your personality is not an excuse for bad behaviour, and it's not about labeling others and putting them in boxes. So, for example, I am what is known as an extreme yellow. That means that my yellow, and that is whether it's conscious or subconscious, is at an 8, which is incredibly high. And I have had to do a lot of self work over the years to understand the impact that I have on others. So, an extreme yellow is outgoing and people focused. It's known as influence in the disc world. But when I look back at myself, I know that my I also stood for irritating. So I like to talk. I butt in. I take over. I'm in your face. And over all of the years that I never really understood my personality, that was just me, and I just assumed that that's what everyone else was like. But now knowing that's me, now knowing that my I can stand for irritating, I want to do it still sometimes. If I'm in the audience and someone's like, whether I'm actually in a workshop myself, actually being trained and developing myself, or whether I'm listening at a conference and the speaker says hands up, I know full well my automatic reaction is to shove my hand as high in the sky as possibly, butt in. It's all about me. I've actually been called the donkey from Shrek as well. Now I know that, so I will sit on my hands and look around the room and wait for other people to, put their hands up and join in. I know that. I don't do it and then just go, yeah, but that's just because I'm so yellow. No, I'm very, very self-aware. And that's what understanding your personality is all about. It's about being very, very self-aware about your own behaviors and the impact that they have on other people. But then people just say, well, once you know personality, surely that's it. And it's like, well, we're made way, way more complex than that as the human beings. We are multi levels, multi layers of what makes us human. Because I could be with another incredibly high yellow and actually clash. And people say, well, how do you clash with someone else that's yellow? Surely you just bounce off each other. And absolutely, to start with, when you get to meet each other, you bounce off each other, and it's quite tiggery and it's quite exhausting for both of us. But actually, other things underneath that could mean that we have a conflict. So when I talk about personalities, when I talk about behaviors as a whole, I like to think of a Spanish onion. Yeah. Just get yourself a huge onion. You know how onions, and you peel back all of those different layers, don't you, of an onion? And it's when you get to the core, when you're at that center part of the onion, the core, that's what I say is our personalities, because they don't fundamentally change over the life. Not hugely. I mean, you could have a huge life experience that has an impact on your personality. Or if you look up, the gentleman called Phineas Gage actually shot out the forefront of his brain. I believe he was trying to take his own life. He survived, but he took out the personality part here, the frontal part of his brain, and his personality totally changed. As I say, I don't believe, my opinion, that our personalities fundamentally change that much over the course of the year. I'm very yellow. The second dominant part of my personality is D dominant, which is the red part. I'm very outgoing. And I guess over the years, my yellow has probably mellowed a little bit more, but my red has come up. So again, jobs and roles might impact slightly, but you don't change that much. So I like to say, core of the onion is personalities. Now we need to lay on all of these other layers that impact how we behave. And what are they, I hear you ask? There are plenty. There are plenty. Because I also have menopause brain, I've written some of them down just to make sure I cover all of the ones that I'd like to go through. So we've got our personalities, our values, our core values have a huge impact on how we behave and interact with other people. And that's some deep work that you can do. You could do some very high level stuff to understand what it is about your values. And by asking yourselves, in the context of life, what is important to you? What does that give you? And just try kind of drill down. I've done a lot of work with this. I actually did it with Amy Rowlandson because for me, she is just like the queen of values. I now know that my highest value is respect, but it's also freedom and autonomy. It's probably why I run my own business. I think probably I'm unemployable. I'm rubbish at being told what to do. But I understand and I know that. So when I am working with people, when I do like some boundaries, I do like some structure, but I like as much freedom and autonomy. But respect is a big thing for me. Something else that will impact is culture. Your culture, what was your upbringing like? What was your education like? Because your education can have a big impact, whether that's even simple things like were you public school or private school educated? Did you go to college? Did you go to university? Did you do further education? I left school at 15. Has that had an impact on me? I went to work as soon as I could. I was not academic. I'm not academic. I love learning now, but I put that down to the fact that it's the choice of what I'm learning rather than being told what to learn. Mm, freedom and autonomy. Yeah, that's, I think, been in my life for quite some time. Also, emotional intelligence, that's another layer of what makes you human. I always say if I delivered a whole masterclass, a whole day, just when I'm just talking the disc personalities, I'll always say to people, at the end of the day, you'll have that emotional intelligence layer of personalities because you've understood your own style, you've understood the traits and the characteristics of other styles, you've learned how to read other people. You've learned how to flex and adapt. That's all part of having the emotional intelligence of behaviours and personalities. Your faith, that will have an impact on your behaviour. And then boundaries. And I say to people, what kind of boundaries do you have? Oh, I've got boundaries in place. Well, what are they? Oh, actually stop and think about it. I'm one for journaling. I love a journal book. I love journaling out stuff, especially, when it's deep work that I need to do. But have a look at the boundaries that you have in place. And quite often when you get triggered, it's because things have been pressed, like maybe values that you don't read and don't know. Someone's overstepped the mark with a boundary. You've got to. I know that respect is my highest boundary, and it's quite rigid. Which on some things I will always be rigid on it, but on other things I know I just need to have a little bit of a healthier relationship with it and have a little bit more flexibility and adaptability, because I can. We tend to find that our subconscious brain works before our conscious brain, and something happens and we click. Do you know when you do that and you just go to react to something? It's like whoa, whoa, whoa. A very split second of taking in a breath, because I've just realised actually that's says a lot about me and it's something that's triggered me. So again, boundaries, values, personality, they're the deep stuff, and all of this other stuff is laying over it. But if you look at how your upbringing, for example, and look at the role models that you had in your life, what impact have they had on you? And I share this in keynotes, and I share this in workshops as well. I grew up in the 70s, and a huge role model to me was Margaret Thatcher. Now, I didn't vote then, and I had no idea what her policies were. Trust me, she snatched my milk too. But what I did see was a female in what I saw then at the time was a very male dominated world. So, yes, she must have had some kind of impact on me because I've never seen uh, uh, I've never seen something and thought I can't do that. That's a male role. I've always just gone for things. I've always thought, no, this, you know, I, I can do that. I can do that. It's not, and I just know probably by seeing that, and also growing up on Spitting Image. If you're too young for Spitting Image or you've never heard of it, go and Google it because that was hilarious. Margaret Thatcher was a great character in Spitting Image. But like I say, the whole hereditary part of it, your family, the genes, you must have had at some point in your life being told that you are like your mum, you're like your dad, you're like your aunt, oh, you're like your granny from. There's always that time, especially when you're growing up as a child, that you get told that you are like someone in your family. Well, think about it. What were the characteristics of that person? Were they strong, or were they the type of person that actually they were the behind the scenes people holding everyone else up? They were the person that was always there getting things done. What kind of characteristics did that person have in your family that says that when people say we were like that person from your family, even down to your genetics? But also think about the friends, your friends that you hang around with, people that you have hung around with for a long time. I've got friends that I still see that I was at school with. And yes, I'm in my mid 50s. Still got school friends. And it says a lot about that relationship with those people. You'll have friends, they'll come in and out of your life, but the ones that have stuck with you for a long time, again, look at the characteristics. They say that you are the sum of the people around you. But then also look at the people that perhaps are no longer in your circle. What was it about their behaviours that made you move away from them? Think about it. Again, hold up a mirror, journal on it. It says a lot about your own behaviours. Your Even your interests, your hobbies and your interests, even down to your habits. What kind of habits do you have? Your belief system. What do you believe in? Are you, I believe in star signs, for example. And some people think when I do this in a workshop and put star signs on a flip chart, I can see an eye roll. I'm like, this is an opinion. This is not fact. This is what I believe makes us who we are. And because I believe in star signs, the moon cycle and all of that kind of stuff, I'm a Taurus. My birthday is the 11th of May. I am in the middle of a Taurian star sign, and I absolutely show the traits, the true characteristics of a Taurian. I am stubborn. I'm loyal. I am steadfast. And they are very Taurian traits. Are they Taurian, or are you just saying, well, actually, that's just a yellow star or personalities or red personality? It's just, I know it's part of what makes me who. And that stubborn part of me, I know I can hold a grudge. I really do. Can I believe I'm actually admitting that here on a podcast? Yeah, these solo episodes, you're really going to get to know me as well. But hopefully, by me telling you all about me, it might help you self-reflect on yours. What are your attitudes like? Are you a morning person as well, or an evening person? Are you a pessimist or an optimist? These are all of those layers of that onion that make us who we are, our boundaries. The narratives, what do we actually tell ourselves in our head? Because they impact how we behave. And you could probably sum up a lot of all of those different layers. How do these things actually happen? It comes down to our life's experience. You know, if you think of all of those things that I've mentioned, it's our lived experience that has made us who we are. And that's not to say that some of us have perhaps not or had some trauma in our life. I'm not going to go into some of the trauma that's happened to me in my life, but it's not always been plain sailing, and I could let that impact me, or I could take a moment and I can journal on stuff. But most of all, I can learn from it, I can move on from it, and I can help it not impacting my life and my future. I'm the only one that's living this lane. And that is my life's motto, is you only have one lap of this thing called life. And if you're not happy in the lane you're in, indicate and change lanes. Do please watch back if you think I may have been very yellow and actually talked too fast on this. But those are the layers that I believe make us human. If you feel that there are more layers, if there's other things that I haven't mentioned, please drop me a note. Drop it on wherever you've watched this podcast, or drop me an email, vic@queenofbehaviours.com. Talk to me. Tell me more about that. And if there are things that you're thinking, oh, I'd like to know more about that particular layer, I'm going to do one on values and I will do one on boundaries. But if there's other stuff that you want to learn about, get in touch. I'm Vic O'Farrell, the Queen of Behaviours. Thanks for listening. Well, that's today's dose of truth. Now go make it happen, because behaviour drives behaviour. And behaviour starts with you.